Hey guys, it's Kaylor. Welcome to the YouTube channel. In today's video, we're going to create this awesome travel website in Adobe XD. It's a pretty cool design. It's got a nice modern layout to it. Got a cool sidebar navigation with it. I think it's going to be a pretty fun tutorial. So I hope you guys are ready. Let's go ahead and get started. And real quick before we get started, if you guys are a channel member, I just uploaded the completed project file for this tutorial in the community tab. So head over there and download that if you're interested. All right, so I've just got my artboard here called Wireframe 1920 by 1080, a normal size web artboard. And let's go ahead and turn on our layout grid and drop the opacity on that a bit so we can see through it. And we're gonna drag out some guidelines here. So one on the left at 140 points and one on the right at 140 points, aligning on both of those left and right side columns. Let's also drag one down from the top for our navigation at 100 points. And then we'll fill these with rectangles. So I'm just gonna fill one on the left here with a rectangle. And then the top one, we'll just drag over until we meet that first rectangle here on the left. And for now, we're gonna leave the right side empty. So we have a navigation on the left and on the top for this design. To get started, let's just add the logo, which is gonna be in the top left corner. So I'll drag out a rectangle 24 by 24 for the height and width. I'm going to center that with these two rectangles. So if you imagine these rectangles overlapping like this, it's going to be in the center of this square. Let's add some links here. For our link, we're going to be going with Roboto for our font, and we'll set these to 16 points, and we'll bump those up to a medium font weight, aligning them to the left, and we'll set them to all caps with the uppercase icon here. Going to center that into our top rectangle and align it here on our second column on the left-hand side. Next, I'm gonna hold Alt or Option and drag one out 60 points to the right. Then select both of those and Command G to group them. And we'll convert that to a stack. So we have 60 spacing on our horizontal stack. So now we can select one of these, Command C, Command V, and paste that out a few times so we have 4 navigation links. Over on the far right, I'm going to grab our rectangle, hold Option or Alt, and drag it over. And we're going to align this on this far right side column, and we'll put about 40 points in between both of these. These are going to be placeholders for more of our navigation icons. Next, let's add a heading to this. So I'm just going to grab one of our fonts and copy and paste it, and we'll just scale that up. And we'll set it to 120 points, and we'll bump that up to a nice bold black weighted font, aligning this on this second left-hand column. And we'll put that about 230 points from the top of the artboard, and I'll just fill it with some text. And let's adjust our line height. We'll do 120 times 1.2 for 120% line height. Since we're going to be having an image for our background, I don't want to have any small paragraph text because that would be hard to read. So we're just going to go straight into our call to action button. So I'll just grab a rectangle and drag it out. And we're going to adjust the size of this in a minute. Let's just grab some text. And for our button, we'll go with 20 points. And we'll go with bold, just so it's a little bit more noticeable than our navigation links. And we're going to center align that. And for the line height, we'll do 20 times 1.5 for 30. Going to select both of those holding Shift, and we'll center align them together. Command G to group them, and we'll turn on our padding values so we can adjust that. So on the top and the bottom, we'll go with something like 24. And then on the left and the right, we want that quite large. We'll go with something like 70. And then we'll position this on the side of the second column, and we'll put that about 30 points below our big heading. Let's double click to grab that rectangle, and we'll just make sure the border radius is scaled as far in as we can get it. Here on the left, we're going to have a slider showing how many sections there are to this page. So when the user is looking at our hero, we're going to be in section 1, and then when we scroll down, it's going to go to section 2, 3, and on down. So we'll just grab the line tool and just drag out a straight line. And I'll set this to 400 on the height value. And I'm just going to center that inside of our left-hand rectangle. And on the height, we're just going to position this touching the top of our largest heading here. So it's aligned to the top there. We'll copy and paste this and set this to 100 height and bump up the border radius to like 4 or something. Let's actually make that a little bit bigger. We'll go with 6 and make this a little thicker as well. We'll go with 6 and 2. All right, so I'm going to select our thickest line here, hold Shift and grab our thinner line, and then hold Shift again and grab our rectangle. So we're grabbing all 3 of those elements, and then we're going to center them horizontally so we make sure that they are perfectly centered on top of each other there. Below this, we're going to have a number showing which section we're in. So we'll just grab the type tool and put 01. And we'll scale that down to 16 size font, and then a medium weight. And then let's rotate this sideways, -90 degrees, and put about 15 spacing below our lines there. And I'm just going to select all of that and group it together with Command G. Down at the very bottom corner, let's have some social media links. So I'm just going to grab that 01, copy it, and paste it to create a duplicate. And then we'll just change the text on these to FB for Facebook, IN for Instagram, and one more for Twitter. And we'll do 40 spacing in between all of these. And if you want, you can group that together, Command G, and convert it to a stack, so you can easily change the spacing later. For now, we're just going to make sure that's centered inside of our rectangle, and we'll put it about 40 points from the bottom of the artboard. All right, so next, let's add our bottom section here, which is going to have a little video and tell a little bit about our place that we're highlighting here in our hero section. So I'm just going to grab a rectangle, and from the bottom right corner, I'm just going to drag out all the way over to this column here on the left, the second one, lining up with our heading and call to action button. And for the height, we'll go with 210 points and touch that to the bottom. Next, we're going to have the video in the corner. So we're just going to copy and paste this, Command C, Command V. And then I'm just going to divide the width by 4, since we're going to have 4 sections. And our video will go in the corner. And we'll drag the height on that out to 250 points. All right, so we're going to have 3 things highlighted in this rectangle here. So I'm just going to copy and drag out this video block into the pasteboard. And we'll set it to 210. And we're going to design our card and repeat it up here. So first, we're going to have the number of the sections. This is going to be 01, 16 font size, medium weight. And we'll position that 40 from the top and something like 70 from the side. Hold Option or Alt and drag a duplicate down. Our title is going to go in here. We're going to align these to the left as well. And we'll put that about 32 below that first heading. And then lastly, we need a paragraph. So we'll just drag one out. And I'm going to make this 235 wide. And then I've already prepared some text. So I'm just going to go ahead and paste that in. And then we'll position that about 6 points below our heading. And let's set it to regular. And then actually let's bump up this heading to about 20. And then adjust our spacing. So that looks pretty good. So we'll just drag this in. And hold Option and duplicate it. So we've duplicated it 3 times, and we can just delete all of those rectangles since we're done with them. And I'll just go ahead and change these to 2 and 3. And finally, we need our play button on our video. So I'll just drag out a circle, and we'll do something like 72 by 72. And then we'll center align that inside of that rectangle. And that'll be our placeholder for that. So I think that is it for our wireframe. So I'm going to go ahead and save that. Select our artboard, hit Command D to duplicate it. And then I'm going to double click on this and call this Home Design. So now we have 2 artboards, one for our wireframe, and then we're going to finish our design in this new one. So first, let's delete the rectangle for the top navigation and the one on the side since we no longer need them. And we can also select our artboard and turn off our layout grid and Command semicolon to hide our guidelines. All right, so let's add in our logo in the top left. I'm going to go into box icons. You can get this icon pack by Googling box icons. And I'm going to grab the map pin and just drag that in. And we'll center align this inside of our placeholder square. And then I like to keep the square for alignment purposes, so I'll turn the fill down to 0% and then group the icon and the rectangle together. And then let's go ahead and change our text for our navigation links. I'm just going to copy and paste in some text here. We'll go destinations, experiences, about, and then the final one we'll add as gallery. Since we're using that nice stack, it expands and shrinks to make sure we have 60 spacing in between each of those links, quick and easy. Then we'll fill in these next two icons here. Back to Nucleo, and let's grab a search icon from box icons, and then a grid. Same thing, I'm just going to center them inside of their squares, and then I'll just turn the opacity off and group them with it. And then for this one, I'm going to create a square that's the same size as this one in the corner, just so I can have it as a different color later. So that square is 4x4. And I'll also go ahead and group that in with its icon. We can also fill in our text here in our bottom bar. I just have some places to highlight for this trip that we're highlighting in our hero section and some text to go along with it. So I'm just going to copy and paste that in for all three of them. And now I think we're ready to start working with our background image. So I'm just going to grab a rectangle and drag one out. That is the full height and width of our artboard. Command-Shift left square bracket key will send that all the way to the back of our layers panel there. And so I'll just drag in an image. This is one I'm going to be using from Unsplash. All right, so the first thing we need to do is add in a rectangle on top of this. And I'm just going to drag that right above our image. So here's our image, and now we have this rectangle. And I'm just going to set this to a linear gradient, and both of the values are going to be completely black. The one on the top, we're going to go with 8%, so we have a nice gradient. And the one on the bottom, we don't want it completely black. That's a little too dark a transition, so we'll go with something around 56. And then I'm going to select the points and adjust where this gradient is actually applied to. So I think I'm actually just going to go from around our second section here, somewhere around here, just so we get some nice black in this corner to make our button, our social links, and everything pop over here when we change these to a different color. But we still get that nice brightness of our image in the top right. So let's just grab all of our links and our social media as well and just change those to white. I'm going to do the same thing for this grouping here. Just going to grab each one of these lines and change them to a different color. Same thing with our logo and our heading text. Then our icons up here in the top. So now we can see things a little bit better. All right, so next let's go ahead and finish off this bottom section first. So I'm just going to select this big rectangle, and I'm going to remove the border and set the fill to black. And we're going to drop this to 60%. So you can hit 6 on the keyboard to drop it down, or you can drop it down over here manually. And then we'll grab all of the text in this section, and we'll just change those to white to start. For the paragraph at the bottom of each one of these, I'm going to set that to a gray color. Color code on that is 7E, 7E, 7E. Then we're going to use our primary color for the first time here. I'm going to select all of these headings, and we're going to change them to CCFF90 for this nice lime color to make those numbers really pop. And we'll leave those headings there at white. Next, I'm going to drag in another image into our video block there. And then on our circle, we'll just remove the border, and let's drag in a play button. So I'm just going to double this in size, multiply that by 2 with its aspect ratio locked there. And then I'm going to center this inside of the circle. And then since it's a play button, there's a little bit of an optical illusion. It doesn't look right. So I'm just going to select it and nudge it over to the right about 3 pixels or so, just until that looks centered. And then I'm going to add a drop shadow to this white circle. So we'll just add that and bump up the blur value to 50. And then also the opacity, just so it's a little bit darker, to about 50 as well. We also need to make sure we remove the border off of our rectangle there. And that is our bottom section now finished. So let's go on to our side nav here. I'm just going to set our logo in the top left to our lime color that we're using. And for the section indicator, I'm going to set that to that lime color as well. Right click, apply as border. And let's add a little bit of a drop shadow. We'll just leave it as the default 0.36, and then it's 16%, just so we get a little separation there. And let's also add some drop shadow onto our 0.1 there. And on this one, since it's text, we'll go ahead and bump that up to about 40% opacity, just so it's really nice and readable there. And let's also mimic that down here on our social media links. I'm just going to add some drop shadow and bump that up to 40% on the opacity. And so our side navigation's done. And let's complete our top navigation as well. Only thing we need to do here is grab this little square for our grid icon. And I'm going to fill this actually to a darker color. This is A0FF2F. And the reason I'm doing that is because this is so small. If I were to change it to the lighter color, let's zoom out here, you can't really see it. And that leaves us with our heading and call to action. For our heading, we're just going to leave this at white, but since there's a lot of stuff going on behind it there, we're going to add a nice drop shadow to this. And on this one, I'm going to set the blur value to 50, so it's quite spread out. And we'll just drag this up to around 32%, just so we get a little bit of drop shadow. You can see there, when I turn it on and off, it's a little bit more readable with that drop shadow. And finally, our call to action button. I'm just going to double click so I can grab that rectangle, remove the border, and we'll set it to our lime color and add a nice drop shadow to that as well. And then we'll just bump that up slightly, maybe around 22%. And then for our heading text, we'll just set that to a straight black color. And then we have finished our design. Now you can tweak the drop shadows. You can add them to the navigation and the icons up in the top of our nav as well, just to make sure, depending on what image you're using, that the text is nice and readable. We go ahead and select that artboard and hit live preview. You can take a look at our finished design. So that's going to do it for today's tutorial. Hope you guys enjoyed creating this nice travel website in Adobe XD. If you want to see more content like this, make sure you give this video a like, subscribe for more design and Adobe XD related content. And as always, have a great day, and I'll see you guys in the next one.